is Melody, the massage therapist, and I have a new friend, Ruth Pendergast Sissel, and she's written 3 books. Miraculous Me, which I read and I love. Then it goes Barnyard Bliss, and then Gossamer's Lens. So I asked her if she could tell us her story of how she became an author. How did this happen? And this is her daughter, Ivy.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, Ruth, tell us your story.
My story. Okay, so I guess my story is a lot like a lot of kids, where when I was young, I was born with a birthmark on my leg. And
On your what?
on my leg.
On your leg.
Well, the reason why it's probably like a lot of kids is that whenever you have any sort of differences, kids tend to pick on you with those differences. So I got teased a little bit about my birthmark. And somewhere in my spirit, I thought, one day I'm going to write a children's book that celebrates our differences and that who we are is enough. So fast forward decades, and I had already had my oldest daughter, Emerson, and Ivy was a baby. And I'd always journaled and just been a lover of words and reader of books, but really had kind of shelved that whole children's book idea. And then one day I was reading a book, and it was talking about all the babies that we've lost since Roe v. Wade. And it just broke my heart. And here I was with my little one. And, I just said a prayer of, God, use me for whatever. My heart was broken about it. And I just said, God, use me. And literally minutes later, I was putting Ivy socks on her feet. And out loud, I just said, look at those toes, where will they go? And I felt like I was struck by lightning. It just was that inspiration where I knew this wasn't about me, it was bigger than me. So I grabbed a pencil and a notebook and I started writing as quickly as I could. And I ended up with, I didn't realize it at the time, I called it a poem, but it ended up being the manuscript for Miraculous Me. So I had this poem or manuscript and I had no idea about what to do with it.
Right.
So then I just started calling people. And my girlfriend Val had told me about a local company called Hope for Life, and they do mobile ultrasounds. So they help women who are in crises and they give them free ultrasounds. I'm sorry, it's called Hope Mobile. And so I just called the director and I introduced myself and I was terrified. And I said, I wrote something and I don't know what to do with it, but can I share it with you? So my voice was trembling, but I just shared it with her over the phone. And I really felt moved to do that. And she said, I know who you need to be in contact with. So she reached out to Sherry Boaz, who's an awesome local publisher and author.
Oh,
Caritas Press.
Caritas.
Yeah.
I mispronounced it.
Yeah, Caritas Press. And so Sherry, I think, called me the next day. And so I read my poem to her, and she loved it, but she said, I don't have an illustrator on board. So if we can find an illustrator, let's do this. Like, she was all in. And so, again, I started praying and reaching out, calling people, and I called my friend Tina Matney, who I babysat her kids when I was in middle school. And Tina was an art teacher and always very creative and did all sorts of different modalities with art. And so I told her I have this thing and I wanted to share it with her. And she was crying over the phone. And it was really beautiful because she said she always wanted to illustrate a children's book, but she just didn't know how to make it happen.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just knew it was the right fit. And so, Tina and Sherry and I just connected, and she's in Washington State, so we were on the phone a lot or emailing each other, and that was how Miraculous Me
came about.
And how this whole process
So how
began.
did the other two happen?
So fairly quickly after Miraculous Me, we were still in the process of editing, and she was sending illustrations. My cousin had painted a picture of a tree, a really beautiful, like, ornate tree, and there were these two owls, a Mr. and a Mrs. Owl, in the tree. And I started thinking about those owls, and I kind of got struck with inspiration pretty quickly. And so Barnyard Bliss is about a baby owl that's born on the farm, and all the farm animals are sharing in the good news of this new life. And so it was really, I really placed it on my grandparents' farm that I grew up on.
Where was that at? Oh,
In Peoria, Arizona.
So you grew up here?
I grew up
and
here.
And your grandparents had a farm?
Yes.
What did they grow on their farm in Peoria?
Well, it was dairy.
Oh, dairy.
Dairy farmers before I came along. But yeah, so this was really really a work of gratitude for the generations that came before me and really paved the way. And so it was really a tribute to them.
Are your grandparents still around?
No, they passed away.
So they didn't ever get to see your book?
No, my grandma Lucia Bell, she's really she was like a second mom to me, and she was an amazing writer. She was fabulous. So it was kind of something that I feel like we share as kind of kindred spirits. And then Gossamer, I was praying one day and I closed my eyes and I had this kind of just this picture of a caterpillar and a butterfly and the differences. And my husband teaches emotional intelligence, so we kind of tied it in with I tied it in kind of with what he teaches too. So Mr. Crawley's on the ground. He's the caterpillar.
I love it.
Yeah, and he's really grumpy because he's in the dirt and people are likely to step on him, and so he's not happy at all. But Gossamer, she has a completely different perspective, and they're on the same piece of property, but their lives are happening completely different because of the way they're seeing the world and seeing themselves in the world. And so that's
what does Gossamer's lens mean?
So my husband's curriculum is all about the lenses of leadership. So it's basically when you change the way you see the world changes. So Gossamer's lens or Gossamer's view on the world is completely different from Mr. Crawley's. And so, her life is...
Oh, Gossamer's the butterfly.
Yeah.
Okay, you may have said that and I forgot.
Yeah. So they end up meeting and she wants to share with him that, there's something in store for his life, that there's something coming. And so, those are my 3 books, and it's been a blessing, a total unexpected blessing. And I think it's my story is a perfect illustration that you don't have to be the most qualified to go after what's on your heart.
Right.
And I think if God places something on your heart, that there will be a way if you just, keep moving forward.
And tell how the Barnyard is illustrated by Tina, but Gossamer's lens is illustrated by you.
Yeah, so Tina illustrated the first 2 stories, and she's an amazing artist. I called, actually, I probably emailed Sherry and Tina, and I said, I wrote this other manuscript for Gossamer's lens. And at that point, Tina was still finishing up the illustrations for Barnyard Bliss. And so she was kind of at a space of not wanting to go into another project right away. And so I had actually on Ivy's first birthday, I had started painting again, just as a just kind of recultivating something that I had loved years ago.
Right.
And so I had just gotten up every morning for a good year, or more, and just painted. I painted pictures for family and friends and myself, and I just practiced.
Was it different modality? Is that what it's called, modality? Oils or acrylics or watercolor?
Yeah, it was acrylics. Yeah, so that's what I did here. And Sherry, my publisher on the first two, she was instrumental in helping me Photoshop this. So I actually ended up self-publishing the last book.
Wow.
So she, yeah.
So how would someone go about getting your books?
You know what? You can actually follow me on Facebook. It's called, my page is called Miraculous Me. So you can follow me there, and you can message me there. And then